Hey, it's Caleb. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe. Hey everyone, welcome back. This video will be just some more vocabulary. Hopefully it's not 12 minutes long like the last one, but we'll do our best. Alright, so these ones there's not as many. We're broken up into two categories. The first one is SQL. So first we learned about SQL, which obviously is a program language used to, by the way, I never even mentioned this, I'm horrible. Structured query language is what SQL means. That's what it stands for. It's used to connect to your database. Oh, sorry, I just got distracted. I was waving this paper, and like my lens is like flashing for some reason. Anyways, the next part was data definition language, which is used to define. It's part of SQL. So SQL has data definition language and DML. Data manipulation language. DDL is used to define the structure of our database. Data manipulation language is used to insert values in our database, as well as update them, delete values, and search values, and so forth. The other thing was, I didn't really mention this, but I do want to mention it here, SQL keywords. So anytime we have the word keywords in a programming language, it's talking about something that is reserved that you're not supposed to use for your user-defined data. So for example, select in SQL. This is a word that your database is going to recognize as, okay, we want you to do something, we want you to select data. It's a keyword because it's already defined. So I don't want to name my tables or my columns any keywords because it can cause errors or confusion or just make things complicated. I always put SQL keywords in capital letters. Alright, so that's pretty much all for the SQL. Here's my eraser. Go America. And every other country. Alright, presentation. So the very first thing is we have the front end of an application. So the front end is what the user sees. The back end is what's going on behind the scene. When we have a website, we don't just have what the website looks like. We have code that gives us that look. When we put in data to forms, we have languages that communicate with databases to create a easy to follow, non-confusing front end. But the back end is complicated as heck. So that's the difference between front end and back end. Front end is what any user at a particular time will see. The back end is what's going on behind the scenes. So often when we're working with databases, we will program a front end because we don't want everyone accessing our server. It's insecure and it's just not a good idea. So we often create a front end application to access our database. Most commonly a website, although there's other forms, but whatever. So if here's our database, rather than people signing into the server and using SQL code to get information, we often program front ends for people to access this data in a different way. So each one of these front ends would be like a website page, for example. So here would be a registration page, here would be your users page, here would be your profile, your home page, here would be, if you like, you can even have different tier systems. So this could be a page where the website administrator can add or delete users. They have that extra privilege. This is also the view system, which we will talk about in a second. Well, the front end doesn't allow us to directly type in our own SQL. It only allows us to use what the front end gives us, which is then communicated to the database. So that's what a front end is. The back end would be the server-side code used to communicate with the database. So when we're talking about clients and servers, we have those two terms. We have client and then we have server. So very first thing is client. Client is, think of it if we have this wall here. Over here we have a computer. And then over here we have a database. This is the client side because we're accessing the database. Over here is the server side. So client side and then server side. I don't really have room to write that, but yeah. The server serves instances of this database to the client where they can access the data in some way. Depends on how the privileges we give them. So when we're talking about different privileges for different people, we use what's known as a view. So first let me finish this. Client side and server side. And we communicate from the client side to the server side by a server side scripting or programming language. Oh, that's huge. Whew, now my hand's tired. We can give custom views. So a view is just taking the data from the database and illustrating it in a different way than how it's actually stored. For example, a user on a website can visit, let's say we're on like a social network, and I visit my friend's page. It'll tell me their name, possibly their username if that's what they use, their data registration, their phone number if that's public, for example, anything like that, their relationship status. Although information that is private may only be accessible to the user who owns it. For example, their password or their email or their friends list. That might be a different view depending on what page you are on, and the user that you are. So I may be able to access my own password and email, but that might be private to other people. That's the view. Views often use joins, which basically connect data from multiple tables to create a new table. If we have two tables here, users table, comments table. Can you see that? Can you see it? You better be able to see it. Well, a comment is always given by a user, and we connect it using the ID. It's called a foreign key connection. Well, this ID, let's say it's the ID of 25, right? Well, instead of having, okay, this comment was by the person with the name, with the user ID of 25, we want to say Caleb Curry. So we have a join taking the name from the user table and connecting it with the comment of the comments table to get this new generated table. This is just a view. It's not actually stored in the database like this. We're just creating a new illustration of how the data really is stored. And then we can have the name of the person followed by the comment or comments of that person. You may be asking, why don't you just use the name as a reference? Well, that's because multiple people can have the same name, for example. So we always need something that's unique for this connection. Whether, if you don't want to use an ID, you could use something like a natural key username, for example, but I often use IDs, and we'll be talking about that more in upcoming videos. So yeah, that is all of the vocabulary that we have gone over so far, pretty much. If you have any questions about any of those, just leave a comment. I recommend that you write all those down. I should have told you that at the beginning. But anyways, I recommend you write those down as well as the definitions. Study those, learn them, and especially study from the previous videos. Study all the different terms that mean the same thing. Because after a while, you get kind of used to those terms. But if you're just learning and you don't know that these are talking about the same things, well then you can get confused very easily. So I recommend you study. Alright, a row is also called a tuple and is also called a whatever, blah, blah, blah. That will help you. That way when I say whatever word it is, you know what I'm talking about, and you don't have to like check your charts or whatever, or go watch other videos. So that's something I definitely recommend that you memorize. As well, for the SQL stuff, it's not as important, like the DML, DDL, but I do recommend that you memorize all of these terms as well. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that, please be sure to click subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video where we are starting something new. So yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully you are too. Bye. Peace. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.